Graduation. Is that a little bit loud, Gray?
When you walk right next to it.
Okay. So what do we say about the CGCIO program? I tell you, it goes back many years, and I think it's safe to say that Shannon agrees that year 2006 was the best class of all. Okay. She did warn me that I might start a fight if I said that. Okay. I'm just kidding. I'm sure ours was the best class, but that's all right. That was a few years ago. And I tell you, if I could go back and take it again, I was telling her earlier, I need to sign up again because all the stuff that I should have remembered and paid more attention to comes up daily now, okay? So she's going to invite us back for a refresher. Or I guess with the new version 2.0 program, we can sign up. And Maurice is smarter now, and he's learning all kinds of new stuff. And I'm just kidding. Maurice wasn't there when I went through it. I'm just picking on him. I'm just kidding, buddy. You're a great addition to the program, very, very much so. So congratulations to all of you that made it through another year with Shannon, okay? I know that's a feat within itself. She brags on all of you guys. We're proud of what the School of Government and her program has done for our group. I can't imagine where we would be without them, okay? And all the learning and sharing that we've done between her program and the NCLGISA group over the years. So we're glad we're going to sit back and watch you guys graduate, get these diplomas, and enjoy the next 2 hours. I'm just kidding. She said it wouldn't take that long. Thank you, Shannon.
There's cocktails fully funded as soon as we're done with this downstairs, so you don't have to stay too terribly long. We won't be here for 2 hours. We won't even be here probably an hour and 15 minutes would be my guess. I am going to ask, as each of the graduates come up towards the end of this program, that you stop and let us get individual pictures for you. So if you also have loved ones that want pictures, that's a good time. So it'll be a little slow, but it'll give us time to tell embarrassing stories about everybody, I hope. We'll try to come up with some sort of story about them. I do want to introduce our team, and Stacy, I don't believe, is in here right now. She's out working at the registration table. It's okay. I think most of you know Stacy. Does everybody know Stacy? So Stacy Hypes is one of our team members. Carla Stowe, some of you do not know if you haven't gone through the CIO program. She actually provides all of the logistical support for the CIO program. Maurice Farrell is my co-instructor in that program. He's been with us almost 5 years now, because my son is almost 5 years old, so he's been there a long time. He is getting smarter every day. It's sort of scary. I don't know how that's happening. So, and then I'm Shannon Tufts. We have run the program since 2005. I always talk about this program, and actually had the opportunity to talk to our new chancellor the other day about our program, and she said, "How did you come up with that?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't. It was this really crazy group of IT professionals named NCLGISA." And then, of course, she did the standard NCLGISA. What does that stand for? And we started talking, and I said, you know, our client group was really interested in figuring out how to get additional education and certification from the School of Government, much like we do for the clerks and the finance officers and the managers. And this was their brainchild. And so every year that we've been fortunate enough to do this, it's because of the NCLGISA involvement. The program has grown probably more than we would have ever imagined. I think even just since Maurice has come on board, the amount of involvement from other entities has become amazing. We run a program for K through 12. We have community colleges, state agencies, and local governments in the program that are graduating today. We have a program in South Carolina, a program in Texas, and a national program. We're hitting 1,200 members graduated across the country from this program. Those of you who are in the very first class, 2005, there were 27 of you, and I don't know that I would have ever guessed we would have made it out alive, especially because of Mike Kroll and Earl Bunting. Both of them retired, so we just beat them into retirement eventually. But it's really exciting for us. I want to give a little update on something that's going to happen this year. We've talked a little bit about it, but if you're interested in the program, before we get into the graduation ceremony, we're revamping it. Most of you, how many of you have had to do a refresh, a little Botox, a little nip tuck, a little something? Nobody? Nobody wants to admit it. Bill has done a little refresh for himself, a little Botox. So we're going to do a refresh to the program. We actually, because of the K through 12 participants and the community college participants and the state agencies and the local governments, we realized that we have an opportunity to really make a difference in a broader way with the program by restructuring it so that we will have all of those groups meeting together starting in August. There'll be one day where the groups split apart and meet separately. on the front and back end of the month, and then they'll meet together to really create some community problem-solving opportunities. So we're really excited about that. If you're interested in the program, know that you're not going to start until August. So I was already heard a little bit from Rob that he was like, well, now you're changing it as I'm getting ready to enroll in it. I think you'll like it. I think it'll be better. It'll give us a chance to hit the refresh as well. There's a lot of topics that have changed. What we taught in 2005 is absolutely different than what we teach now. And so it'll be more opportunity to do that as well. And for those of you that are interested in version 2.0, we're going to try to revitalize our alumni program this year. So we've got some big plans for ways to serve you. And hopefully you'll see that and enjoy it. As always, you have the right to tell us we're doing it wrong, which pretty much everybody does. But it's a really fun program. I don't know that I would have ever imagined doing this for this many years. And I think one of the reasons that Maurice and I are so passionate about what we do is because of the people that we work with, all of you, the service that we see. And I was thinking about this and reflecting on this, and I know I've told this story before. How many of you have heard my story about George Washington? A couple of you have heard my story about George Washington. A couple of you have heard stories about George Washington. But this strikes me as probably the most appropriate story to tell about amazingly talented IT professionals who serve the public. Because I can't imagine a less thankful job than what you do. It's something that I don't know if many of you have ever had a citizen tell you thank you for the work that you provide to the government. I don't know that many governments tell you thank you. I don't know that your employees realize that 911 actually works because you're there doing what you need to do on the weekends and at night, etc. So as we're thinking about this, there's a story about George Washington and being a true leader and what kind of service he provided to our country. At the very end of the Revolutionary War, his officers are getting together and they're actually really frustrated. They've heard rumor that Congress isn't going to pay the soldiers anymore. They feel like they're beaten down. They've been gone for a long time from their homes. And Washington hears rumor about this meeting that's going to happen, where they're going to basically decide to walk out. So they're going to stage just a giant strike for doing the work that they had been doing for so long. And so Washington sends around a memo and says, no, please don't go out and meet on this day, which was, I believe, the 10th of March. Let's wait and actually meet on the 15th of March. And nobody ever expected him to show up at these meetings, these officers' meetings. And so he comes into the room, and he's talking to the officers, and he feels their frustration, and they are ready to quit. He's trying to motivate them. He gave a speech that was probably as wordy as any speech I've ever read in the history of speeches. It was boring. I don't understand it. It confused me. He was trying to make them understand why what they were doing mattered. And then he stops at the very end, and he's got something in his pocket that he gets ready to pull out. And as he starts to pull this piece of paper out, it's actually a letter from Congress explaining the financial situation of the country and why they will do everything they can to make sure that we keep funding the soldiers that are fighting this battle. So he says to all of these officers in front of him, gentlemen, will you permit me to put on my spectacles? For not only have I grown gray, but almost blind in the service of my country. Grown men start crying as they're sitting in the audience. They didn't know he wore glasses. They didn't think about him as aging at all. Now, we were talking about how long, where's Daryl and some other folks, we were talking about how long we've been in this organization and how old we are now, and it really is a little stressful for some of us. But I think that this story is illustrative of everything that we see in the CIO program, everything that we see in public sector IT in general. You guys are growing, not that you're gray or old or blind or any of those sorts of things, but that we're serving for years and years and years. Bill Stice, how long have you been serving? 24 years. We have other folks that have been serving for 40 years. Susan, how long have you been serving? I know it's not 40 years. No, 28 years. I knew it was longer than Bill. I didn't know how exactly long. But we've got these folks that are continuing to serve. And every day, as I listen to what's being said about IT and what's being said about the state of government, I'm amazed that you still go to work. Because I would feel a little bit defeated if I were you. And instead, you come to our program and you tell us all the amazing things that are happening in your organizations, all the inspiring things that are happening, the way that you're making a difference in the lives of your citizens, the lives of the employees in the organization. And I think that that type of service keeps us energized. It allows us to keep doing programs like this. But more importantly, it's the reason that I've been in my job for almost 14 years. It's the reason that Maurice will absolutely not be going to any other organizations that might be trying to recruit him right now. Susan Lohman. But it's really important that what you do is you are actually servant leaders. And if you know anything about Robert Greenleaf and his servant leadership mentality, what he talks about is that the ideal is to serve, that leadership comes from service. And I believe that every CIO that I've ever worked with, every IT professional that wants to be a CIO that I've ever worked with in the public sector is truly a servant for the public good. You do things that no one else would want to do for next to no pay. I was talking to my colleagues from the community college system, and the salaries that they're paid are so low that they have to have extra jobs to pay for their kids to go to college, right, Robbie? That's what we're talking about. That's a challenge. Public school teachers have just as much challenge, and I recognize that. But it's really interesting when I look at your peers in the private sector and see what kind of money they make, to realize that you could go and do that. We actually had a consultant that came in and worked with the NCLGISA board, and he said to me after he met the board and talked to them, he said, you know, I could go right now over to this company that was hiring 400 new employees, and I can promise you that they would hire every single one of those folks in that room at salaries that are 10 times what they're probably used to, 5 times what they're probably used to. You have the most talented IT professionals in this state that I've ever met. And he said that about our board, but it was reflective of the entire organization and certainly reflective of what we see of the people that come to the program. So the fact that you choose to serve is really important. And I hope, if nothing more, that going through this class allowed you to see that your service matters in a way that nobody talks about. You don't have a day dedicated to, well, you have sysadmin day, but that's just sad, right? But I mean, you don't have a day dedicated to celebrating what you do as public servants or what you do as IT professionals, but we believe that what you do is unbelievably important. We also think that what you do is great. There's nothing more important than being great at your chosen profession. And so as you're thinking about greatness, it's not because you landed a great job that has been an ideal place to work with unlimited budget. How many of you have that? Right? Exactly what you think is happening is probably happening. It's a choice you make every day. It's the reason that you go in on the weekends. I was listening to Gill talk yesterday, and she was talking about her team having to work at night and on the weekend because a server went down. And I said, was that a disaster? And she said, well, it was because they had to work at nights and weekends, but you know, the citizens didn't know anything about it. The rest of the employees didn't know anything about it. And that's every day. I see what you do on the listservs. We get calls from some of you at times on the weekends and at nights related to these issues. You make a conscious choice, and you have a substantial amount of discipline and rigor around your profession. And we really appreciate that. Before I start into this, I want to talk a little bit about each of you as you're coming up, but I want to give Maurice a chance to say a few words if he wants to.
Yes. So I guess I've gotten smarter since this presentation has actually taken place. So look, I just want to say I really have enjoyed working with the CGCIO course this year. I think we've bonded in ways that we haven't with other classes in previous years. I'm not saying that this is the best class, but it is a really, really good class. We did the Harlem Shake. We did a lot of different really cool things in class that I really think impacted me in ways that the other classes didn't. It rejuvenated me. It was a great experience. So I wish you well from this point forward. I look forward to seeing some of you in 2.0. Once you have become part of the School of Government family, you cannot divorce us. So we are connected at the hip, so to speak, from this point forward. If there's anything that we can do to help you out, please feel free to just give us a shout out. We're here to help out. And I just have to give a shout out to my boss, Shannon Tufts. She is absolutely amazing, tireless technology evangelista. I mean, she goes around all over the country talking about the good things that are happening here in the state of North Carolina. And I really think, I appreciate you for doing that. She was talking about servant leadership. One of the really key attributes of being a servant leadership is that it makes other servant leadership, so other servant leaders. So as she's out there serving North Carolina, we're actually creating a cadre of servant leaders within the state of North Carolina that we can then continue to build on. So we're raising the bar here in North Carolina. So with that, congratulations, and I look forward to shaking your hand as you come across the podium.
I thought he called me Linda Evangelista, and I got really excited for a second. Those of you who don't know who that is, that was a model back in the 80s. Yes, I am that old. Okay, so as we're thinking about this, the very first day of class, we actually put this slide up. And we said that part of this program is for you to figure out how to answer this question. What does IT, what does public sector IT in your organization do? What do you personally do on a daily basis that improves the efficiency and effectiveness of your organization, your community, and your state, and helping accomplish those goals and objectives? I hope you can answer that question now. If you can't, then you fail. So just don't tell me as you're coming across, and we'll just sign you up for next year. But it's really important. One of the things we spend a lot of time in this class on is marketing and communication and telling your story. My biggest challenge in every aspect of my job is going out and trying to explain to people why IT matters. I imagine it's your biggest challenge. So really, as we have a unified voice about the role of IT, it's not about the technology. It's about the people. It's about the fact that sanitation runs better if IT is involved, that 911 actually operates if IT is involved, that law enforcement officers are allowed to make better decisions because IT is involved, that now our finance officers can make better decisions. So it's really about the fact that we now know, without a doubt, empirically, that you matter in a way that we probably have never been able to demonstrate up until the last couple of years. And we're seeing it in this state. I probably saw 3 listserv messages today from the city and county managers around IT issues. So they recognize that it matters. Our state recognizes that it matters. More importantly, I hope you all recognize that it matters. Because the thing that we see in this audience, at NCLGISA, at the CIO programs, is this group of professionals who are absolutely unbelievably committed to making a difference. I don't care what way you choose to make a difference, if it's being a public servant, being a public school teacher, being an IT professional, you are committed to making a difference in the lives of people who will never know you. And that is something that is truly amazing and inspiring to all of us. So we really appreciate what you do. We're going to call each of the graduates up now. We're going to have them walk up this way, and you exit that way unless you're really talented and want to do like some sort of cool jump off the stage. If you get hurt, I don't think workman's comp covers that, so I might not suggest that. But as we go along, we'll try to let you know a little bit about each person, because this is a really large class for us. We had almost 40 students, I think, in the class. And getting to know each of those folks was fascinating because the personalities were really different. We try hard every year to get to know everyone. And the things that I'll tell you probably have nothing to do with their professional acumen. They're all amazing professionally. I'll try to embarrass them somehow personally as they come up here. Maybe not. We'll see. So we're going to start with Joel Allen. Joel is actually one of our CIOs from the community college system. Every time I look at Joel, I think about the fact that he and I bond over MMA. He doesn't do MMA. He is just a fan of MMA. Oh, so we're going to take a picture. Thank you. Brad Brooks. Where's Brad? Oh, there he is. Brad's so quiet. We were actually talking about this. Gray and I were talking about how quiet Brad was. I was like, I think he said 3 words in class. But we understand. You said more today because it was about security. Now I understand how to get you to talk. Okay. So this is Brad from Kernersville. Good job. Thank you. Nick Brown. Where is Nick? You guys are scattered way out over there. So Nick is from Greensboro. And I tease because I sometimes look at his face and I'm trying to remember his email address to remember his name, because that's the way that I remember names. But Nick is actually one of our younger students. We had a handful of them in the class that I think, Nick, how old are you?
31.
31. Okay, so you do remember the Super Bowl shuffle. I was a little worried about that for a while. Yes, realize that you are that old, all of you. Tom Calhoun. Tom is from the city of Charlotte. We had the opportunity to sit with his family last night, and it was wonderful. He's got a son that's at Western Carolina, right? Yeah, who said yeah? There we go. And one that's interested in going to UNC Asheville for the music program and music technology. More importantly, the coolest thing about Tom is he's a cartoonist. So obviously his children are unbelievably talented as well from an art standpoint, but his cartoon work, the way that, I think this is the neatest story. He was saying in class, the way he expresses appreciation to people when they do something is he draws them note cards and then writes on the inside, but he actually draws the cartoon for them, which I think, boy, you want to talk about feeling special. You get a hand-drawn cartoon. That makes you feel special. Unless it's making fun of you, and maybe then it doesn't make you feel as special, but it was a wonderful thing. Thank you.
I never got a hand-drawn cartoon.
Me either. we were complaining because we didn't get them. I'm so bad at last names. Chris Contreras. Did I get it right? All right. Chris is a former Marine. There you go. I knew somebody would yell in the audience. And he has the cutest kids ever. He's very proud of them. He talks about them all the time in class. And Chris is a GIS expert for the city of Jacksonville. Corey Eckel from Lee County. Everybody is very fancy. Y'all never look this good in class. It'd be so much easier to teach if you all looked like this all the time.
Thank you.
Corey was in one of the classes we were talking about, like work-life balance and some of those issues and leadership, and it was really interesting because he was able to make a connection between what his own personal experiences and what he's passionate about to the things that we were doing in class, and really took some of those lessons and added to them and sent me materials on it, which I really appreciate anytime somebody does that, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stephen Farrell, Union County. Maurice says that's a great last name, even though you spell it differently. It's close enough, right?
Yeah, that's right. One else is close enough. Right.
You've been in Union County how long now? I feel like I've known you forever.
10 years.
10 years, so it's pretty close to my career length as well. So. Steve follows me on Twitter and always tweets me and almost got me in serious trouble last night with my parents. He was like, I want to see your tattoos. I was like, shh, Mom and Dad are here. I know I'm a grown-up, but they don't think so. Yakim, and your last name is Freont? Freont, I was close. Cape Fear Community College? I'm drawing from my memory banks because we didn't put your locations on the diplomas, which is a little bit challenging, although I guess it's great for you if you want to change jobs. So, and I think Yakim did a great job. He sat at a table with some pretty extroverted population, and he comes from the community college system, but every time he spoke about something, it was something that he really was passionate about, and he always had really great questions that made me reflect on what I was speaking about as well, so we appreciate that. Danny Gilchrist from the North Carolina Community College system. Now, you want to talk about some fun. This is a brave man. How many community college CIOs do we have? I don't know, 6, 7 of you, 5, 6, something like that. Danny works for the community college system office. So you could imagine the heat that he took every single class period from this group. They love you. They mean it. Do what they say. That's what they're telling you.
Thank you.
And you have an RV, is that right? And Harleys and stuff? Yes. Microbrew. Oh, that's right. I forgot about the microbrew. Ira Hall from Harnett County. I should know how many children you have, but I think it's 7. Okay, I was guessing right. So 7 children, and not only that, but is still an amazing IT professional. I know Paula Stewart is here being proud of Ira for what he does, but it is amazing to think that somebody can balance 7 children and a spouse and a farm, right? You have a farm with animals. I guess that's what happens on farms. But he does all of that and still manages to work probably more hours than anybody I can imagine in Harnett County working. It's probably not appropriate for him to work that many hours, but he still does. Thank you. Scott Yakima. I was not going to say his first name because he's always been Scott to me. I should have called it all out. Do you want me to call you by your first name? Marvin Scott?
No, not Marvin.
No. That's your first name, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what's on there. If we got that wrong, we have a problem.
We give our middle name.
Yeah, in the South, no, I don't. I'm from the South. So poor Scott, I feel sorry for him at some level because he has to work with Tony Burris. He's from Union County Public Schools, one of our lone K-12 folks in the program. And I think over the years, Tony and I have talked about this a little bit, and Maurice and Tony have talked about this. There's something special about having K-12 in with the local governments and the community colleges and the state agencies, and actually based on Scott and Tony's involvement in the class, as well as the other folks, Matt and, why am I drawing a blank on Kim? I was like, I can see her last name, Kim Alexander. Based on their involvement in the program, you actually are one of the reasons we are restructuring the way that we do the program because of the value that you add and that Scott added this year, so it's fantastic. Thank you. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Are you going to jump? Awesome. It's like, wow. Oh, that was not fancy. Andre Johnson from South Carolina. You forgot Andre's name? I'm so sorry. That's Bob.
It's Bob.
That's all right. Maurice has a nickname. I'll tell you later.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is. Odell is Maurice's nickname, just so you know.
Yes.
Andre has actually been an amazing asset in the program. I don't know how many of you know about the kind of work that he has to do for the Sheriff's Department in Richland County, right? Lexington County, right next to it, in South Carolina. But he was always pushing us on the things that were related to law enforcement and actually was really valuable even in the work we were doing around CGIS. So it's been great to have you in the program. Thank you so much. Brett Kelly from Garner. He's doing No Shave November. It's because you're a hockey fan, right? He's a hockey fan. Yes, No Shave November. Don't do that, Maurice.
I don't have any hair.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen here.
So Brett's been in Garner. How many years have you been there? 4? 7. 7 years in Garner, and does some really great work. I actually know several of the folks that are management in Garner, and they cannot say nice enough things about Brett and the work that he does there. Melvin Maddox, who changed jobs in the middle of the year. He went from public safety to traditional IT, right? He's got lovely wife and children here supporting him. So he is now in Charlotte, yes, city of Charlotte. Charlotte's happy about that. Great, thank you. Greg McCurry, State Board of Elections. Look at that. This is scary, this memory, right? And your boss isn't here, so I can make a lot of fun of him, right? No, never. Greg survives a fascinating CIO who's actually really fun. I don't know that you could have a harder job than working for the State Board of Elections. That's a pretty miserable existence at some level, right? Poor Greg. And he smiles like this the entire time, and he always delivers. Every time I talk to somebody from the State Board of Elections about IT issues, they always talk about Greg and the fact that he consistently delivers. And so we really appreciate that. Mark Burris has said wonderful things. That's the CIO there. He said wonderful things about Greg and really appreciates the service that he provides to the state. Yeah, somebody's got to do a cool jump. Timothy, is it going to be you? Where's Tim? McAnemy. Did I say it right? McAnemy? Wow, why is your name so hard? That's really complicated. Tim is from the city of Durham. Yay. Our Durham folks up front. We've actually got 2 folks from the city of Durham that are in the program, and they sat together the entire year. We wanted to separate them. But Tim has been a great asset to the program. He is actually one of those students who would reflect on things, then come back and ask questions, which I think is pretty symptomatic of both he and Daniel, who's also in the program, that they like to digest and then come back and tell you whether they agreed or not, or add value to it. And I really do appreciate that kind of thoughtful process. And I think that they both bring that to the work that they do. I'm sure that that's been the experience in Durham. Yeah, our introverts. They're definitely our introverts. Raymond Earl Moore. I don't even want to call you Raymond because it doesn't fit. We had Earl Bunting, and then there was Earl Moore. And everybody says that there was like Earl and Earl. I would go with young Earl if I were you. Young Earl would be the way that I would want to be described. Earl, you've been in Pender County how long? 10 years. 10 years. Yes, and Earl, golly, I remember coming down there and working on strategic IT plans and doing some other work. I've probably known Earl. He's been at every NCLGISA conference that I can remember in the last 10 years. And if you are ever paying attention to listserv, he's one of our most active participants on the listserv, both in asking questions but also providing really great information. I think that I would be remiss if I didn't say, in talking to Eric and in talking to Earl, one of the things that we've seen with Earl, particularly over the last decade since I've known him, is his transition from a technician to a manager. And making that leap is something that's very, very difficult. And he's done it with grace, but he has told us repeatedly that it is a struggle. And I appreciate that he's honest about that. Thank you. Brad Orth from Virginia. I should know. Yes, that's what I want. I want some. You're going to do the cool jump, aren't you?
I'll do that.
Yeah. And Brad's going to make you all feel amazing about yourselves. One of the things we were talking about in the class, and he came up and said, I don't know why I don't live in North Carolina and work in North Carolina. What an amazing place with great IT professionals. It seems like the work that's being done here is, it's just different than what we have in Virginia. I know we've got some other Virginia folks like Steve in the audience, but it's what NCLGISA is, and the community that we have been able to build over the last 30-something years is really amazing. And we appreciate anybody from Virginia and South Carolina that comes to the program and know that you add a ton of value.
Yes, and this is another Virginian.
I know he's a Virginian, and we hired him.
Not as smart as the North Carolina people.
Well, he came down here, and he learns quickly.
We get smart every day.
Yes, you get smarter every day.
Absolutely.
I did not know that was possible. So, yeah, if anybody wants to hire him, this is Brad Orth. We want to bring him to North Carolina. Daniel Parrish from Davidson County. Yell, Joel. Woo! Okay. Y'all got to liven it up a little bit. Daniel's been, golly, you've been in Davidson County how many years now?
6, almost 7.
6, 7 years. And I think as we talk about Daniel in class, Daniel was usually quiet. And then all of a sudden he would throw a bomb at you that you had no idea how to actually answer. And then I'd have to stop and be like, I'll get back to you on that. And I never would. Because I didn't know the answers. And I'll never find them probably. But he does amazing work. And I'm sure Joel is really proud and appreciates everything that Daniel does. And we certainly appreciated having you in class.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chip Pate. Yes. I'm not going to read off Chip's entire name. Is Chip here? I don't see him. I think I got an email from him about not being able to be here. He works for the Department of Health and Human Services, so he might not have shown up because some of you struggle with NC Fast. Just kidding. It's not his control. He's actually over NC Tracks, another situation. But certainly, Chip has been a great asset to the class, and I imagine his job is pretty darn hard working at DHHS right now. Ryan Schwiebert. I get smarter every day, too. I don't. Ryan is in Silva. What's the name of your? Southwestern Community College. I can see it in my mind. And is part of the community college system there. Had a wonderful president that was unbelievably supportive of IT, Dr. Groves, but is also probably one of the more unique folks. He's actually a doctor. He's a PhD. And so he does a lot of work and teaching, and hopefully we're going to bring him on board to do some additional instruction with us as well, and you guys will get to see more of Ryan.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. Joe Siwash. told you this is a really big class. I was thinking that was the last one, and there was lots of names we haven't read, and that was stressing me out. Joe works for CGIA, which is the Center for Geographic Information Analysis at the state. He's, look, he was like, that was Joe. I like that. Can we do that for every one of them? That would be awesome.
One syllable name.
What, Joe? Yeah. So Joe works for the GIS group at the state and probably is more passionate about GIS than anyone I've ever met, and is very committed to advancing the position and the importance of GIS in the community. He does a lot of work for GIS across the country, and we really appreciate having Joe in North Carolina. Bobby Schoaf. I saw Bobby. There he is. Bobby, you look good in a tie, my friend. Bobby's also quiet, really quiet. I probably just completely made him embarrassed by saying he looked good in a tie. No, not too bad. Bobby's in Lexington. You've been in Lexington how long now? 14 years. So he and I go way back. Been coming to NCLGISA for a really long time as well. And does an amazing job in Lexington and really does add some value and opportunity to all of us by the work that he is doing and the ability that he has to communicate really technical issues. I think one of the things that I remember about Bobby from probably the last 14 years of my life is that technically he is as strong as anybody I've ever met. And so getting him to be more comfortable with the management part has been part of the process this year, but he certainly is doing well, and we really appreciate all the work that you put in to be not only a great technician, but a great manager. Great, thank you. Bo Singleton. Where is Bo? From Morrisville. Can I tell the story about the email you sent me?
Sure.
He doesn't know. He's like, which email is that? You know, there's those moments. I have these moments in my life where I'm really thankful for the job that I have, and then there's moments when I hate my job. That doesn't happen very often. I'm supposed to stop talking and take a picture. You know that that's not going to ever happen, right? My mouth's always going to be open. One of them actually remember from Gray sent me an email and said, hey, by the way, that thing you made us do 10 years ago in class, I finally applied it today, and it really made a difference. I still have that. It's hanging on my wall, actually, just so you know. But I got an email this year from Bo. And the email started, you know, I really didn't think I needed your class. Yes, and if you know Bo, that is exactly, he's not going to sugarcoat it. He's going to come straight off the top rope at you. And he says, but I have learned so many things, and it's really making a difference in my life, and it's helping me be a better IT director. That was probably like the highlight of my life this year, was getting that email and realizing that even people that might have been hesitant still saw value in what we were doing. So we really appreciate that. What'd you say? So no, you got to graduate. Don't trip. Another fabulous GIS professional in our state who is head of the GIS committee for NCLGISA is Joseph Sloop from Forsyth County, who's also doing a PhD right now and has 2 children. I don't know how you sleep. Maybe you don't. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe you come to conferences to sleep. That could be part of it. Joe's actually in the process of building an entirely new team and doing some really great work in Forsyth County. If you have ever wanted to see an amazing strategic GIS plan, go look at what they're doing in Forsyth County. And Joe's done all of that work. He put that entire plan together, and it's an amazing amount of work that he's done. So we really appreciate having you on the NCLGISA board in terms of serving as the GIS committee chair, but also in class and all that you do for all of us. Thank you. Thank you. Mary Smith. Y'all are scattered so far around. I keep looking for folks. Mary is from Wilmington. She serves as the IT director for the City of Wilmington's Police Department. And Mary, I think I'm correct in this, actually paid for this course out of her own pocket?
Yes, ma'am.
So she paid for this class out of her own pocket, which is sort of amazing that anybody would choose to do that. I always want to give a refund at that point. But it's really been wonderful to have Mary in the class. I think she's added a lot of passion and value to what we do. And in talking to the folks in Wilmington, I know she adds a ton of passion and value to what the city is doing in terms of the police department. Thanks. Dustin Sickle, Jacksonville. Okay, Jacksonville people, you should yell or something. Thank you. There's some mighty big shoes all over Jacksonville to fill, I feel like. Yeah, I know. I mean, you had the Earl, and now you've got the Chris, and you have the Adam. You've got all of these amazing folks. You had the Ray, and so now we have the Dustin. Right? We've got the Chris, the other Chris. So we have all these wonderful folks in Jacksonville, hands down one of the most talented teams. I'm supposed to stop talking. I swear, I'm going to just stop. Just take pictures with my mouth open. Just don't worry about it. So Dustin has been a great asset in the class. I know he's a great asset to Jacksonville. I've known Dustin for a really long time, and I think the work that's being done in Jacksonville by both Dustin and Chris and Adam and all the folks there is just still right on top of everything that's happening in government in North Carolina. We talk about you guys all the time. I'm really proud to be associated with you. Stephanie Smith. We had two folks this year from LMEs. It's the local managed entity for mental health services. It's something that the state created that probably confused everyone. And Brian Allen was one of our other students. He actually came down with a virus this morning and couldn't be in class to graduate. But Stephanie is part of our program, has been wonderful to work with. She reminds me a little of Nikki Gregory, just a little. Those of you who know Nikki, I know she's here. Believe me, I already heard her. Just kidding, Nikki. But it's been really fun to have Stephanie in the class because she's created some very interesting table conversations. Yes? Right, Lee Yunt? Yes. Just every now and again, some interesting table conversations, but also always gave us great legal challenges to wrestle with. Yes. Always. Thank you so much for being in the class. Yay! Okay, that's the way you do it. The 13-year-old has got it figured out. You want to come up here? I will pay you if you'll stand and do that for everybody. Okay, Gill, Robinson, Snyder. And on and on. Our most fabulous non-introvert in the class. We only had a handful of females. What, we have 3 women in the class this year? 3 women. I don't know what happened there. Normally I can tell a lot more jokes when there's more women in the class.
There's Mr. Snyder.
Hi, Mr. Snyder.
Hello.
So he knows this about Gail, and the rest of you probably don't, but she is actually an actress, which I think may be the most valuable skill set to have as an IT professional, and as a manager, and probably as a spouse, and as a female. But Roger, he says, I like that. So Gail was always willing to do the most dramatic things for our class and really help break many of us out of our shells and out of our comfort zones. So we really appreciate that and that you added that value to the program. Yeah, he got, oh, another one.
He got it? No.
Nope. Oh,
Okay.
oh. Oh. Scrolling. Daniel Terry, Durham City. He was very perplexed by the fact that we would bring him up on this stage and make him go back down the same set of steps. He was worried that it was going to be like a cattle call, and no, we're going to embarrass you as much as possible while you're up here, so everybody gets individualized embarrassment. Daniel sat at the table with Tim, and as we said before, really always reflected on things and then came back to us and asked questions, asked for additional research, asked for proof that I was right. By the way, there is no proof. I'm just right. If you're married, you should know this. Yes. Jonathan Vester. Oh, Jonathan. I feel like Jonathan should get double an award because I've picked on Jonathan a little this year. Not intentionally. You know, there's always somebody that sits in the same spot every single time and they make eye contact with you and you feel the need to connect to them. And so my version of connect is give you a really hard time. But I think one of the really nice things that we had happen in the program is another email where Jonathan said, you know, you really beat me to pieces in class. That's pretty accurate. I think I do that at times. But you made me think about the way that I was doing work and changed the perceptions I had around some of my operating assumptions. And hopefully it makes it more valuable. The only thing that I can tell you in the conversations with particularly the community college system folks, the community college folks, and as well as other local government and state agency folks is you do the best you can. You can't fix the people above you. As long as you can find passion in what you're doing and know that you're providing service, that you do that. And I think that's one of the things that we've seen Jonathan really be able to demonstrate is the value that he provides to his own organization, even if they don't value it appropriately. So we really appreciate that you always came with passion and helped me have examples to talk about. Robbie Walters. We've converted Robbie a little, I think. He's come to the dark side. Robbie came out of the private sector, and we would always have some sort of debates about private sector versus public sector in the class, and he would always argue on the side of the private sector. And now I think, well, now that I know his wife's a public servant as well, I should have called her a long time ago and talked about this with her. But one of the things we've seen from Robbie is that no matter where he came from, no matter the fact that he was part of the private sector, and we recognize what that means from a lucrative standpoint, et cetera, he still is passionate about public service. And he believes in it, even if it means working extra jobs, even if it means doing things above and beyond. He's got a wonderful champion in his community college president now, and I think we're going to see amazing things happening at Isothermal because of that. So thank you. Lee Wetherington. Wow, that was a Wetherington. I should have slowed down when I tried to say that. Lee was always vocal in class. Is that true at home? Does he do that a lot? Does he argue with you all the time? Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad it's not just Maurice and I. Lee is another one of our community college members. Really enjoyed having Lee in class. There aren't many people in the world that I would actually take a phone call at a swim team practice from, and I took a phone call from Lee because he needed to talk through a work problem, and it was while my son was trying to doggy paddle, and I was hoping I didn't have to go in, but it was always something that I think Lee really asked questions that allowed us to make sure that the details and the data we were providing to the class made sense and were accurate, and we could give good advice, not only legal advice, but also just management advice. So we really appreciate you being in the class. It was wonderful to have you.
And I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Nanu Yang, who also changed. No, you changed before you came to class. Yes, you confused Carla. So Nanu came, he was in Carteret County as the IT director there, and then he decided he wanted to go back home, which is Catawba County. Right. He was IT director for the Catawba County schools for years, several years, although he's quite young, so I don't think I should say for years. And now he's in Catawba County working along with Lee Yunt and some other folks that are in this audience right now. My favorite story about Nanu has nothing to do with IT. Would anyone like to guess what Nanu's talent is? Break dancing. You could just bust one out right now.
Just for you.
That would be so awesome if he would just like do something. We did, what's that video called? What was the video? A Harlem Shake video. And if you watch the Harlem Shake video, Nanu is breakdancing on the School of Government tables. The fact that Maurice and I didn't lose our jobs is amazing, but he really is proof that IT people can be fun and maybe can dance. Maybe. He can dance. The rest of us, maybe not. Thank you so much. Ah, good job. Lee's going to have to top that.
Yes.
A tuck and roll. Lee Yunt, come on up here. I feel like I could wax poetically about Lee for hours, mostly because I talk about Lee in probably every presentation I ever give on social media. When you want to look at social media done right, you follow Lee Yunt on Twitter. Right? You want to look at social media done wrong, you follow me. So Lee is also from Catawba County. I'm not going to stop. And Lee has been there. You've been there 6 years? Going on 8 years. You're too young. I actually thought Lee was still in his 20s when we were in class. And he's not, and that made me feel a lot better about myself that he wasn't in his 20s anymore. I remember when you were in your 20s. I remember when you first came on board in Catawba County. But I think as we look at folks and look at the work that's being done, Lee has set the bar for social media engagement, citizen engagement, and thinking outside the box in ways that probably none of us were prepared for. Some of us may dislike. And you've created probably more challenge around pushing government to do things differently than anybody I've ever met. I think it's really inspiring to see someone so passionate. The thing that I love about Lee more than anything that's related to government is the fact that he believes in his community. He serves his community. He actively participates in his community. He is what we talk about, transformational leaders and transformational CIOs, and this idea that being engaged in your community, going back home like Nanu did, and staying in your community and making a difference there is unbelievably special to us, especially those of us from this community in North Carolina. And we really appreciate everything that you do there. I know your colleagues in Catawba County appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's it. Did I miss anybody? I hope not. I think we had all of your graduation folks. I have no idea what time it is. I know there's supposed to be cocktails somewhere at some time, right, Jason? 5 o'clock in the exhibit hall. If we could get all the graduates to come up here, we'd like to get a picture for the class, because we put pictures on our walls, and well, we say we will, but we've yet to do it, mostly because we lose the pictures. But y'all look real good dressed up, so we want your picture. Gray, do you mind? Congratulations to all the graduates.